Welcome to the Summerhill Media Studies podcast. In this episode, we will be studying newspapers. Newspapers crop up in Component 1, Section A and Section B. In Section A, you will study media language and representations in two set products, the front page of The Sun and The Guardian. You should also analyse other newspaper front pages to help you understand the codes and conventions. Take the opportunity to look at newspapers whenever you get the chance and try and look at a range of broadsheet and tabloid. In Section B, you'll develop your knowledge and understanding of newspaper industries and audiences in relation in particular to The Sun. So newspapers are print publications that report events that are happening in the world. They're published daily in the UK, Monday to Saturday, and many also have a Sunday edition, for example, The Sun on Sunday. The Guardian's sister paper, The Observer, is published on Sundays. Most daily and Sunday newspapers include news stories placed on the front cover and in the opening pages, features relating to other cultural and social topics such as entertainment, health and travel, crosswords and other puzzles, and sports news placed on the back pages. Print newspapers have faced competition in recent years from the availability of news in other forms, such as 24-hour television news and online news sites that are constantly updated. It's important for the front page to capture the audience's attention and encourage people to buy the newspaper. Newspapers are still an important source of information for many people and can influence opinion about what is happening in the world. You'll need to consider the way in which newspapers represent events and issues. Newspapers also tend to lean towards either right-wing or left-wing political views, which might be evident when they report issues and events such as Brexit and elections. It's important to be aware of a newspaper's political stance, as it could affect the way in which an event or social group is represented. Newspapers go through a thorough editorial process, as they should ensure they publish factual information and do not include misleading or inaccurate material. Newspapers can be categorised into different types. Popular or tabloid newspapers, such as The Sun and The Mirror and The Daily Star. Mid-market tabloid newspapers, such as The Daily Mail and The Daily Express. And quality or broadsheet newspapers, including The Guardian, The Times and The Daily Telegraph. Historically, all newspapers were produced in a large broadsheet format. But at the beginning of the 20th century, some, such as the Daily Mirror, were produced as tabloids, approximately half the size of a broadsheet. These became very popular as they were more convenient and easier to read. Nowadays, most newspapers are published in the smaller tabloid format, including the Times, but the term tabloid has come to be used to describe the populist red-top publications such as the Mirror, the Sun and the Star. The term broadsheet is still used to describe quality newspapers, including The Guardian, The Telegraph and The Times. Each type of newspaper has specific codes and conventions. The layout and design of a tabloid newspaper's front page will usually be dominated by images and large headlines. The broadsheet front page will also feature images and headlines, but usually also carries a substantial amount of copy or text relating to the main stories. Another convention is headlines. Tabloid headlines are often short and attention-grabbing, using puns or other language devices to communicate messages quickly. Broadsheets often have longer headlines that convey more information about the issue or event. In terms of coverage of issues, tabloids are often said to sensationalise events, identifying elements of a story to emphasise and grab the reader's attention. They might include humour and sometimes satirise public figures. Broadsheets are recognised as providing more in-depth coverage of stories and usually adopt a more serious tone. Images are a key feature of newspapers, and both types of newspaper use photographs, although tabloid newspapers have a particularly high image-to-text ratio. In their written copy or text, tabloids tend to use less per article, broadsheets use more copy and give more detail and background information about issues and events. Tabloids use a more informal, direct mode of address and colloquial language. Broadsheets use a more formal tone and more complex language. Using your newspaper notes and study guide, make sure you understand what each of these following codes and conventions of newspaper front pages is. Headline, caption, stand first, trail, anchorage, splash, secondary story, byline, and plug. That concludes the first part of our look at newspapers and the newspaper industry. Until next time.